Hello everyone and welcome back to another Backlog Banter movie review. My name is Tucker Hazel and this is the co-host who has grabbed me, Tanner Dykstra, and today we're here to talk about the newest film from Scott Derrickson, The Black Phone. Ethan Hawke, he's got a mask on, he's grabbing kids, but if you want to talk to us about this movie, you should join our Discord. The link is in the top of the description. While you're down there, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment with your thoughts, ring the bell so you know when we're uploading movie reviews, and like the video because that makes me happy. But Tanner, The Black Phone has finally released. You and I, big horror fans, big no movie fans, Scott Derrickson fans, I would say, and The Black Phone is here. What are your thoughts on The Black Phone?
For whatever reason, when I was seeing trailers to The Black Phone, I'm like, am I gonna think this is a bad movie? And Tucker, I don't think this is a bad movie. I think this is a good movie. I think Scott Derrickson really just... I don't really know. There's not like any grand overarching statement I can make about this film.
Sure.
Because Scott Derrickson just nails what he's going for here. He just nails this like serial killery, child-starring led and but with a paranormal twist, with a supernatural twist to it. He just nails all of these things that he's clearly going for in this movie, and it has these like underlying themes of like the child abduction panic of the 70s and the 80s, and
Yeah.
I mean, Ethan Hawke is great. Our main actor, Mason Thames and Madeline McGraw, they're both great. It's just a very solid across the board film for me.
Yeah, very solid, I think, is the word that I'm going to use. Because I don't think this movie necessarily excels in any particular way. I wasn't blown away by Ethan Hawke's performance. I think he did very, very good. He's not the next horror icon, I would say. But the story of the movie with the child abductions and this history and lore that they build of these abductions have been happening, and our main character Finn is only one in a series of kidnappings, and the fact that the ghosts of the previous abducted children are helping him out, it sort of makes this film into like an escape room sort of deal, and I think that's where the film is at its strongest. I loved watching the tension of being in this tight, dark basement and seeing what Finney can use to sort of work his way back against the grabber, and the always looming presence of if he's trying to escape and the grabber opens the door, what's going to happen? And that sort of tension, I think, is where this movie is at its best. Also, with Madeline McGraw as Finn's sister, Gwen, who I think is the standout performance of this film, even more than Ethan Hawke. I think her as a 10-year-old girl, but speaking in lines that I wouldn't wish out of my mother's mouth, I was blown away by her performance. And both of the young actors bring a lot of energy to this film.
Yeah, I think all of the child actors are quite good, but obviously, like, Madeline McGraw is great.
She's the highlight.
She sells a lot of the laugh out loud lines that this film has, and she sells the sort of supernatural twist because she can have dreams where she like sort of spirit walks or whatever you want to call it.
And also, some of the dramatic moments. I think the most powerful dramatic moment in the film is when she's yelling at her abusive father after he's been trying to convince her that her dreams aren't real. And she's saying, my dreams aren't real. And a lot of emotion on that young actress's face.
Yeah, but obviously, the focal point of this film is Mason Thames as Finney Shaw. And, that is, I think he does a great job. As you said, Tucker, this film has a sort of escape room sort of vibe to it.
Yeah.
And I just think, I just love films where we watch characters, like, figure things out and, like, sort of take these incremental steps towards a larger plan to escape the grabber's room. And it is supplemented by Mason's performance. I think he does a very, very good job in sort of selling, figuring these things out, being determined and capable, but also being a child. He breaks down and he cries when things are overwhelming for him in this situation. But he also sells the anger and the fear that are all intertwined whenever Ethan Hawke is in the room with him. It's very, very solid. And, talking to the ghosts of previous victims of the grabber who sort of walk him through all these steps of how to escape. He sells these conversations, he's talking to nothing, basically. But also, I want to mention, I think they do those scenes very, very well with like implementing the ghosts and changing it up every time. Sometimes they're in the room. Whenever you hear their voice, you see them, but their voice still sounds like it's coming from this old black phone. Yep. And I just love those things. And then they disappear either with like a boom and a whipping out into the darkness, or like they just fade away. It's
Yeah.
very, very cool.
Yeah, I think the strongest elements of this film are that escape room aspect, which you're right, the progression of seeing him learn about what is in this room, what he can use to his advantage, and then that all leads very satisfyingly into the last act where all the elements are pulling together, and boom, the grabber is spoilers defeated. Believe it or not, the kid doesn't die in this film. But that aspect is really good, and I think it's supplemented by the supernatural element as you're talking about with these with the victims of the kids, the ghosts. Being there, not being there, I think they were. I assume the actors were in the room while Finn was talking, but he's not acknowledging them. So that's another impressive kind of acting, is acting to someone, but they're not, but pretending like they're not there, and the focus of the camera being on Finn, so you can see them sort of in the background, and they're doing different things, and it is very creative in the filmmaking, and I think that's where the camera work and the filmmaking is at its best, and those are where some of the special effects are and things, but it is pretty simple on the whole with its filmmaking. And I think maybe that's where the movie doesn't blow me away. I wish there was more creative camera tricks, more creative usage of the paranormal stuff in this movie. But those are a minority of the runtime in the film.
Yeah, I don't know what I was saying earlier when I said the actors weren't in the room, because they clearly were, if I remember those scenes actually.
Yeah.
So my bad there. But and then I want to jump across to Madeline McGraw. You know, she is sort of the other half of this sort of the intrigue and the mystery of this film, when she is like trying to have dreams to, you know, spirit walk or dip her toe into the supernatural realm to figure out where her brother is. And, you know, those scenes are very interesting. You know, there's some good jump scares in there, like when she sees a ghost in this spirit world or whatever. And there's implemented by like great lines like when she prays to Jesus to give her these dreams. You know, it's unclear if that is the source of them. She has a crisis of faith essentially in this film as well, which is interesting. But she has a great line where she doesn't have a dream one night, and she goes down to a prayer. You know, she kneels down with her Bible and everything, and she goes, "Jesus, what the fuck? Why didn't I have a dream?" Essentially, great moment from her. And then she's also basically acting off of these two adult detectives who are, you know, handling this case, and she has a really fun chemistry with them, especially the first time that she meets them, where she hits them with the line, "Tucker, I know you have it written down."
Oh, well, she calls them fucking fart knockers after a tirade of other funny lines.
Yes. So she's great, and, you know, she's, as you said, Tucker, she sells the drama, she sells the comedy, she sells the supernatural element just as much as any other aspect of this film does.
Yeah, so I think all of those are my positives, and on the whole, obviously, I am positive on this film. I think it's good, but I think it just doesn't go far enough in terms of being unique. I can see what Scott Derrickson is going for here. It is very solid, but I wasn't really too compelled by a lot of the external drama. I think that really only the Grabber's basement stuff and the relationship between Finn and Gwen are the only things that I found compelling. When we're talking about Finn and his friendship and being bullied and maybe having a crush, feels about standard fare. Him being a baseball player, those scenes are fine. The abusive dad plotline really doesn't go anywhere, and actually I found to be pretty underwhelming. And the whole drama of this world with the history of the Grabber, I think in concept is good, but it never feels like it's looming that much. It just seems like it keeps consistently happening. You can't tell how much time is going on between these kidnappings. So I don't know. I think that I just wish that maybe the film was focused more on the elements that work, which are those supernatural things. I wish they delved into a little more, maybe spent even more time in the Grabber's basement. But whenever we're cutting out to the detectives or to the culture of Denver, Colorado, I was just like, this is fine. I just wish it had been more unique. I wish that the supporting cast outside of those three main characters that we're talking about had been more interesting, more iconic, more impressive performances. But on the whole, the only two child actors that I thought did a great job are our main two. Everyone else is just kind of kid actors doing their best, but not great. So, yeah.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to talk about, and I alluded to this at the beginning when I stood in my opening thoughts, is that I think this movie and Scott Derrickson, conceptualizing this whole thing and adapting this short story, does a really interesting thing where it plays off of this idealization of the 1970s
Sure.
as this sort of laissez-faire, do what you will, rough and tumble time that seems quite alien to us now. And I think that ties into like the abusive father sort of storyline where those things were that's just how life was back then. And I think it sort of take this romanticization of the 1970s. We get the 1970s music needle drops and everything like that. We get the aesthetics of riding your bike home after winning the big game and everything like that.
Playing pinball.
And playing pinball.
Drinking an old soda.
Drinking an old soda, and they are juxtaposed by a creepy guy in a van can just grab you off of the street because there's little to no parental oversight where these children go. Kids are beating the shit out of each other consistently in this film, and I think it really subverts this idealization of the 1970s. I had to look it up. Scott Derrickson was like 12 years old in 1978 when this movie is set, so I think this very much comes from a personal place for him.
Sure, yeah. I can see him being afraid of a kidnapping like this, or a tall tale in his city where the kids are afraid of this person or the idea of a person or a spirit or whatever.
There was this like panic around child abductions in the 1970s and 80s where it was way overblown in the news and everything like that. And I think this movie does a really interesting thing in playing into that sort of overblown fear mongering that was sweeping the nation at the time.
Yeah, thematically, you're right. That absolutely is very interesting. It's something we don't see very often when we get... actually, no, that's not true. When we get 70s stuff, it's usually horror. It's Stranger Things. We're playing into this this juxtaposition of the iconography of the 70s and the horror behind it. And I think this film does a good job at that, but I don't feel it doesn't lean into that as much as it or Stranger Things, and I kind of wish it had to feel a little more unique. But on the whole, I think this is a very good movie. I think in the elements where it's strong, in the escape room, in the light paranormal stuff, in the three main actors, this movie hits on all the marks it needs to, but I don't think it takes it to a next step where I feel like this is one of horror's best, where it's one of Scott Derrickson's best. I still think Sinister is a better movie. While I don't love Doctor Strange, I think it's a more unique film than this, but it does feel very personal. Scott Derrickson is good at creating tension. He's good at creating horror. He's good at creating simple characters, but the simplicity of this film is a little too low for me. So I'm not going to be thinking about this film and how much I loved it past a couple weeks, I think.
Sure, yeah. I think this film is simple. I think it's very tense, and I would recommend if you have a passing interest in seeing the new horror film of the month or whatever, I'd for sure go see this. I'm gonna give this a 7.7 out of 10. There is some plot twists in here that we're not going to talk about, but some different unexpected things that maybe harkens back to a more classic, one of the best horror films of all time.
My score for The Black Phone is going to be a 7.2. I think that pretty much accurately reflects it being a good movie, but not anything incredibly special.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
And with that, we are done with our review of The Black Phone. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. And if you want to hear more movie reviews from us, make sure that you're subscribed because they will not stop coming. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the future.